Ladies and gentlemen, High Spots and Cheap Pops presents your moment in the Valley and your Summerslam preview. But let's get right into it. Vladi Dadi's not here. He sent me his picks. He is up by 2 matches. He never got back to me until when we are ending our competition. If you're paying attention to that, this is also more of a preview. But we're going to get right into it right away. We have a majority of championship matches. And then we have arguably one of the most anticipated blood feuds in recent memory between CM Punk making his fantastic return to the ring for the first time since the Royal Rumble, for a second time in less than 2 years, tearing his tricep right off the bone. It's going to be interesting to see. But we're not going to get into that match right there. It's a lot of interesting points I'm going to want to bring up. And I'm going to miss Vladi Dadi, though, but I'm going to try to do this thing on my own. A little solo action. I've done moments in the Valley before. This, ladies and gentlemen, is your High Spots and Cheap Pops SummerSlam 2024 preview. All right, folks, we're going to lead off with the Intercontinental Championship match. Of course, I'm talking Bron Breakker, Sami Zayn. Second pay-per-view in a row that they are facing each other. The last time Bron Breakker lost, and they're running it back, that tells me that they want Bron Breakker to win the Intercontinental Championship, maybe a little bit of a bigger stage. Maybe that was going into their thinking. Maybe to have Bron kind of earn it. And I don't know if you should have went the Goldberg route with it or not, but the guy's great. And he's a blue chipper, as the great JR once said about The Rock. So Bron Breakker's going to beat Sami Zayn. Both me and Vladi Dadi agree. Sami's had a very, very good run. He had a monumental victory at WrestleMania. He's had great match after great match after great match. But there is a phenomenon of Bron Breakker, and I don't think they run the same match back on a pay-per-view for the same result. So I look for Bron Breakker to win his first singles championship on the main roster. The Intercontinental Champion, Vladi Dadi, and myself, Silicon Steve Valli, both think Bron Breakker is your guy. And then the Bron Breakker era will start. I think he'll have a very, very long run. And he's also going to learn a lot in terms of in-ring performing on a national stage. Not that he wasn't in NXT. I don't want to throw any slight, but you're talking 2 or 3 times the size of the audience. So this is going to be a great growth period for Bron Breakker. And WWE seems like they're doing a good job of protecting the weak spots of people when they're on the main roster, opposed to exposing them when Vince was in charge the last 10 years. Next, we got Logan Paul, LA Knight. Yeah. And if you checked out SmackDown, you saw that LA Knight is starting to get his stuff off with his comedic end of things, stuff like Stone Cold would do back in the day. And John, to lesser extent, DX, or actually maybe even more extent, DX. But he's kind of joking around. He did this bit where Logan Paul, who, by the way, as a wrestler, I really respect him. As a human being, he is such a shit indictment of our culture that he is a famous person. But I'm just a mark because I hate him and I want LA Knight to win. But it was interesting. I think LA Knight is showing that he can have some comedic chops and he can kind of do the big kind of things that I think will really get him over. I really want him to bring his talk show we had in TNA and NWA. I would love for him to bring that back because it is hilarious. So we'll see with the Eli Drake. I think it was just the fact of life, I think it was called. And so Vladi Dadi and myself both think it's finally time. LA Knight has had a meteoric rise. It's kind of topped out the last 6 months, I would say. Didn't have the best match with AJ that I thought a lot of people thought he was going to have at WrestleMania. Got the victory, but LA Knight's bread and butter. He's decent in the ring. He's serviceable in the ring, but his bread and butter is entertaining people on the microphone and doing the things he did last night. Logan Paul drops a banner down, and it's spray painted, looking, I think, or whatever. So it was a graphic put on that said, yeah, meaning LA Knight marked his big unveiling of his banner that was going to be held atop the Cleveland Arena. But then after that, LA Knight stole this just obnoxiously sky blue Hummer with Prime written all over it. And if it's not corporate America or the idiocy of our culture that pisses me off, all rolled up into one, you have fucking Logan Paul. What an indictment of our pop culture that he was famous before becoming a wrestler. I said it before and I'll say it again. So with all that being said, LA Knight's meteoric rise finally gets his first singles championship on the main roster. I think it's his first championship other than the $1 million belt, which is, I don't know if it was ever been legitimate. So LA Knight gets his first singles championship. And LA Knight, look, he's over 40 years old. So his window of opportunity to be the champion or the challenge for that world, the universal title or the world championship, that window isn't as wide as a lot of other guys like the Bron Breakkers of the world. So Vladi Dadi and myself both take LA Knight. Yeah. We go to Liv Morgan defend the WWE Women's World Championship against her arch rival, Rhea Ripley. Liv Morgan putting Rhea Ripley out after she was put out by Rhea several months in a shoot several months earlier. Hurt her in the ring. It wasn't a shoot fight. It was a shoot injury. Okay, before anyone starts yelling at me. You dumb Mark. It wasn't a shoot fight. It happened in the ring. I get it. You're not smart. Contempt of the audience. The history has been great. The build has been great. This has arguably been the best storyline in WWE outside of maybe Drew and Punk. I'm not 100. I think the Bloodline Cody thing is going to start heating up tonight, and we'll get to that later in the evening. But I think those are your two best storylines, both on Raw right now in WWE. That's my opinion. And here we're going to have some major things happening. Liv Morgan is both picked by me and Vladi Dadi, both going Liv Morgan. I'm not sure why Vladi Dadi or what we think is going to happen. Is Dominic going to turn? Is Finn Balor going to turn? Are they both going to turn? How does this play out? What happens here tonight? Because we saw Dominic curse off Liv Morgan 2 weeks ago, or just about 2 weeks ago, 2 Raws ago. Liv Morgan crying her eyes out. And now she's a woman scorned, and now she's even more passionate about beating Rhea Ripley, despite her being the champion. And obviously, Rhea Ripley wants her championship back. Liv Morgan has been living rent-free in her head since she tried to shag her little dom-dom. A lot of things have happened to create a fantastic storyline, and Rhea Ripley continuing to raise the bar in terms of storylines in the women's division. And not only that, folks, she can go. And Liv Morgan is a great professional wrestler at this point in time as well. You have two of the best in your division going and one of the best storylines you got going. But look for Liv Morgan to retain. Vladi Dadi thinks so too. On to the next. Bayley, Bayley, you wanna be my girl. I don't know that chant, so I apologize if I butchered it. Bayley will defend her WWE Women's Championship against the Queen of the Ring, Miss Nia Jax, with perhaps Tiffany Stratton in tow. Nia Jax presented her with her brand new briefcase for her Money in the Bank contract. And Nia Jax said, if you cash in tomorrow night, you'll have to deal with me. I didn't see that before I made my pick. I don't know if I would have gone the same way, but I made my pick. I'm picking Bayley. For one big reason. I think we're going to have 3 other title changes on this card. A guy like Triple H, I don't think he wants that many title changes on one night because they're going to upstage all of them. I mean, 4 championships being changed hands when you have, I think, 6 matches, that's insane. The only guy who's going to retain your championship is Cody. I couldn't go. So Bayley was the most likely of everybody else, in my opinion, to retain their championship. Logan Paul might retain. I will say that. So Nia Jax is somebody I've gotten burned by before. I didn't pick her to win the Queen of the Ring. Vladi did. And this is another instance where I picked against Nia Jax. I think, again, with the amount of title changes that are happening on this card, Bayley was just the most obvious one. And we head over to the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, just as that segue was just absolutely perfect. Gunther takes on Damian Priest. Vladi Dadi and myself both agree it's going to be a crowning moment for our new World Heavyweight Champion. I think Gunther wins this one. I think there will be some dissension within the Judgment Day. I don't know if it's going to happen early. I think Gunther, this might actually lead the show. It's crazy because they're all, I mean, main event level matches. Liv Morgan and Rhea is a main event. Bayley and Nia is not. The two secondary championships is not. But every other match is a main event pay-per-view level caliber match. It really is. So you have 3 big matches. So one of them is going to open, and one of them is going to be about 2/3 into the show, or maybe it's the last. Maybe he hits you with the last 2 big ones. But usually you have a match so you can have a little wiggle room because you want your main event to get all the time that it needs. So usually what WWE will do is they'll put, I don't want to say a least important match, but a match that isn't as quite as well, I'm just come out and say it. A match that isn't quite as big, you put in that middle spot between the sub main event, and they do kind of a 6-man tag or a grudge match or something that the story of the match doesn't have to be crazy. So I think they might do that here, and you have a couple options: LA Knight, Logan Paul, or you can honestly squash Sami tonight, and it would still be okay. You really could. So this is another one. We both think Gunther wins this one, and it's not a great title run for Damian Priest if he loses, but we're going to get to that if he actually does lose. If he wins this one, it will not. If he wins this one, it gives a lot more legitimacy to his championship run, but he's been upstaged by CM Punk and Drew McIntyre 3 of his 4 championship matches. The other one was with Yeet. So this is going to be the first one. Hi, Cosmo. So this is going to be the first one. Look at this guy. So this is going to be the first championship match outside of the Jey Uso one that, in all likelihood, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre isn't involved. And I think he's upstage. I think that feud has upstaged Damian Priest almost every step of the way. And then he had that terrible botch with Seth Rollins where he didn't kick out. It hasn't been a great championship run, and I hate to say it because I like Damian Priest, but it hasn't been impressive on a lot on most metrics, with the exception he's in the middle of some really good storylines, and he's doing his mic work as well as he can. So the guy's a star. I just don't know if he's a main eventer with this roster, but we'll see. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if he or Balor ever get a world title before their career's out, because they're both on the other side of 40 now. They're closer to my age than they are some of the guys, that they're wrestling. This is not comfortable, but he loves his daddy. I will say that. Give it up for Cosmo, everybody. Cosmo, look at Cosmo. What do you got anything to say, Cosmo?
Yes, CM Punk is a fucking dick. I love you, Dad.
Oh, God, he got dog slobber on my microphone. This is terrible. Anyway, but to sum that up, both Vladi and myself are taking Gunther to become your new WWE World Champion. On to the next. It is the grudge match of a century. Doesn't even need a title to be possibly the biggest match on the card. If there wasn't a certain return happening in the big main event with Cody, I think this would be the big match of the night. It has been literally 7 months in the making since CM Punk returned, and there was some shade thrown when he first returned. I'm talking about in November. Drew McIntyre came and cut a promo on CM Punk. He was one of the first ones to do so. I think Seth was the first, and Drew was the second. And Drew and Punk just had incredible chemistry on the microphone and even on social media, particularly McIntyre. And to me, this is what it's all about. The only problem here is, folks, and actually, ironically, as my dog has now leaped off of my lap. And so ironically here, I think Drew McIntyre more than held his own against CM Punk. I thought he actually beat him. And look, I have been very critical of CM Punk. I've been critical of AEW too when it came to that disaster. I've been critical of all parties, but I've been very critical of CM Punk. But I want him to succeed because when he's on television, damn it, he's still entertaining. When he has a microphone and when he's doing certain spots and he is spitting just the best game you ever heard on that microphone, that's what I want to see. That's the CM Punk that is still there, and it's still just as good as ever. This is his return match as well. So that was my big thing. It is his first singles match back. I think he wins this match. I really do. I think WWE wants to give him that. Drew then will be even set more ablaze. But I think Punk wins this one. I think McIntyre attacks him after the bell. And this is just the beginning. I think Punk wins in kind of a bullshit way, maybe a small package, maybe a roll-up, maybe some kind of weird pinning combination. I don't think Punk beats him. But I think Punk gets a cheap win. McIntyre attacks him after the bell, and so on and so forth. And we're going to kick the can down the line. Seth Rollins, where's he going to play in this? You know, Seth Rollins will probably prevent anything from really crazy happening, but Seth hates both these guys, apparently. To me, I don't know. It seemed like he respected Drew McIntyre at the end of their championship match at WrestleMania. He said, "You fucking deserved it, man. You know, you fucking earned it, man," or whatever he said. But he was showing respect to McIntyre after that match. And now all of a sudden he hates him even more, even though they have a common enemy with CM Punk and they have common gripes and common issues with the person that CM Punk is on and off the field, as they say, so to speak. But the thing about Seth Rollins, how does this end? Again, I think this is just the first chapter in terms of physicality between these two guys in terms of matches. But I don't know where Seth really fits into this feud right now. I think they could wait to put Seth and CM Punk for WrestleMania next year. I don't think it needs to be now. But Punk got involved with Seth Rollins. So to me, the character of Seth Rollins has every motivation to hate Punk a lot more than Drew McIntyre. They went to war. Seth beat Drew, I think, 2 or 3 times before Drew finally beat him. There was a mutual respect at WrestleMania. All of a sudden, Seth Rollins hates Drew McIntyre because he attacked a couple of referees. It doesn't make sense. I didn't like that part of it. I think they have really tried to generate a hatred between Seth and Drew that was not there. Even when they were going back and forth in that WrestleMania, there was a value of respect. There wasn't a lot of hatred there, certainly compared to what the hatred they had for CM Punk. So I don't get why Seth needs to be involved in this other than you don't have anything for him, other than this. And you're dropping seeds for later on. Now, that might be why Vladi Dadi picked Drew McIntyre. CM Punk might have Drew McIntyre beaten, and Seth doesn't count the 3. And Seth screws Punk the way Punk screwed McIntyre. That might be what Vladi Dadi is thinking because he takes Drew McIntyre. And the irony, the guy who's been as critical of CM Punk without being a fucking whack job AEW sycophant, a guy who's criticized CM Punk's actions and also criticized the AEW crowd for their part in what that was, that last year and a half disaster that was CM Punk and the AEW relationship. The guy is with most critical is the one who's taking CM Punk. I don't think CM Punk loses his first televised singles match. I don't. Maybe you could say because he's been such an important part of the show since WrestleMania, despite not being able to be medically cleared. Despite that, he's been a very, very important part of Monday Night Raw over the last 6 months. He really has. He was a big part of WrestleMania, involved in one of the best cash-ins in history. Might have been second or third. So Punk has been a very viable part. He's attacked Drew. He screwed Drew 3 different times out of a world championship. Drew took a bracelet. Big deal, CM Punk. Cry me a river. But either way, I'm looking forward to it. I am nervous or worried of how believable it will be that CM Punk can actually beat Drew McIntyre. Punk said it himself. You're bigger than me. You're faster than me. You're stronger than me. But I got heart. What are you, Rocky, you fucking douchebag? Jesus Christ. I got heart. Sami Zayn's got heart, bitch. He didn't quit for 7 years because he didn't like the way things were going. Okay? And finally, folks, the main event. Cody Rhodes, your WWE champion, Universal champion, whatever you want to call it. Your WWE champion, the standard bearer of the entire industry. Oh, high spots and cheap pops. What do you want to... Yeah. It's my Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes faces Solo Sikoa, the self-proclaimed tribal chief of the bloodline. and he will defend the WWE Universal Championship, clearly. But the big caveat that was added last night in SmackDown, Cody brought up bloodline rules at WrestleMania against Roman Reigns, the real tribal chief, as Cody put it. And Solo said, you keep talking about that. Bloodline rules. Well, why don't we make tomorrow night bloodline rules? And folks, I think they are going to throw the kitchen sink at the finish of this match. I am not anticipating this to be Steamboat Savage by any stretch of the imagination. It's going to be a lot of cinema, as they call it. It's going to be a lot of acting, and we're going to see what Solo Sikoa is made of. It's his first singles main event match on a pay-per-view, and it's a major pay-per-view. It's SummerSlam. We'll see what Solo Sikoa is, but I have to say, bloodline rules, if anyone saw the end of SmackDown last night, Jacob Fatu winning that tag match, if you just want a quick synopsis of the energy and the talent that this guy has, just watch the end of that match. He almost single-handedly won. Well, there was some cheating, but at the end of the match, he absolutely destroyed Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano made him look like $1 million on top of it. Both of them wrestled a lot. I think they wrestled a little bit on the indies, so they knew each other. But Jacob Fatu is a beast. Took his shirt off at the end. He's got that star quality power. Guy is an absolute star. He's a future world champion. I think he might be a world champion even before a guy by the name of Solo Sikoa. But Solo Sikoa will not win this match. No. Vladi Dadi doesn't think so either. And with the bloodline rules, you're going to have Jacob Fatu show up. You're going to have Tama Tonga show up. You might even have either Zilla Fatu or Hikaleo. One of those guys might show up. But we got a couple other guys that are going to show up that hadn't been here in a while. I'm talking Mr. Jimmy Mother Uso. Jimmy Uso is going to return at one point tonight. And then, of course, the much anticipated return. I think most people will agree it is expected. In fact, it will be nothing short of a monstrous disappointment if Roman Reigns does not show up tonight, because Solo and Cody by themselves doesn't get the juices flowing. They've done a really good job of trying to build a story, but I don't think anyone's buying Solo Sikoa as a main event guy yet. So for me, if this is going to be your night closer, which it will be, Roman frickin' Reigns is going to show back up and reclaim his throne as the tribal chief. And I think he costs Solo Sikoa his championship opportunity and his championship match tonight at SummerSlam against Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes walks out your Universal WWE Universal World Champion, whatever the fuck, WWE Champion. Let's just call it that. And that's it. Vladi Dadi and myself both think that Cody will win this one. So we were right. A little rundown. Vladi Dadi and I both picked Cody Rhodes in the main event against Solo Sikoa. Vladi Dadi picking Drew McIntyre, and I picked, against my wishes, I picked CM Punk. Vladi probably thinks Seth is going to cost Punk the match. I'm thinking Punk doesn't drop his first match back on television. We have both picking Liv Morgan over Rhea Ripley with some Judgment Day turns on Rhea Ripley, turning her full-blown babyface if she isn't already. We also actually had our second difference. I think Bayley, because of all the title changes that I think are going to happen, I thought Bayley was the least likely to lose her title. But Vladi Dadi has been riding the hot hand at Nia Jax ever since the Queen of the Ring. He takes Nia Jax. We both take LA Knight over Logan Paul. And we both take Bron Breakker over Sami Zayn. So that's it. We have two differences. If I win both, we are tied. And my purple nipple can look back against my gorgeous, sexy 42-inch waist. Hit the subscribe button and let us know what you think. Thank you for watching, and here endeth the lesson.